Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Gillibrand. Senator Cotton, please.
Welcome, gentlemen. General Carrillo, I want to return to your answer to Senator Fisher about the threat of terrorist attacks originating from Afghanistan. If I heard you right, you said you believe that such attacks could occur in a mere 6 months out of Afghanistan against American citizens or allies or partners in Eurasia. Is that right?
Senator, I said abroad, which I would also include Europe in that.
Eurasia. But you said more than that against the American homeland.
It would be harder for them to do that against the American homeland.
If you assess 6 months against Europe or Asia, what would you assess would be the timeline against a homeland?
I think it's hard to put a timeline on that, but again, I assess if they could in as little as 6 months with little to no warning, and I'll talk about that in the closed session as to why I assess that.
How likely do you think a terrorist attack on the United States or one of our allies is originating from Afghanistan?
I think it is a higher probability overseas than it is in the homeland.
When you add up all the troops you have in your area of responsibility and American citizens who are there for business or tourism or pilgrimages on any given day, what are we talking about? Probably hundreds of thousands, right?
At least.
So hundreds of thousands within range of a terrorist attack in your assessment in a mere 6 months from Afghanistan. Okay, I want to turn to Iran.
I don't think we've heard the answer.
Yes, I do assess.
I want to turn to Iran. You said in your written statement they can produce sufficient fissile material for a nuclear weapon in less than 14 days. You also say that deterring Iran is arguably more urgent now than any time in CENTCOM's history due to, one, their cutting-edge missile and UAV capability, and two, their uranium enrichment program. That's correct?
That is correct, Senator.
Yet you also say Iran is undeterred from its malign activities. So that's not good, that it's more urgent to deter them than at any time in Central Command's history, but they're undeterred. Why is Iran undeterred right now?
Currently, right now, we see them, their malign activity is increasing. We see them again in the last 90 days. We have some of the highest numbers of our advanced conventional weapons and munitions that we've seen going from Iran to Yemen. We see their attacks on our U.S. forces in Iraq and Syria increasing, and we see the threat streams that I can talk about in a higher classification.
I mean, those are more the results of the lack of deterrence against Iran. Do they feel undeterred because they feel safe that neither the United States or our partners are going to threaten anything that they hold dear?
I can't say the exact reason why they feel that, but I know right now when I look at them, I believe they are undeterred.
I mean, there is a history. You write throughout your statement, there's a history of Iran being deterred by the credible threat of military force or actual military force. That's right, isn't it?
I think that deterrence is always temporal, so you can deter for a period of time and then it will wane. I do believe the Soleimani strike was a deterrence.
We go back much further than that. Iran waged war with Iraq for 8 years, and then Ronald Reagan sank half their navy in the spring of 1988, and surprisingly, that war ended just a few months later. And Iran also stopped its enrichment program in 2003 after the United States had invaded and toppled governments on both its east and its western border. And then, as you say, they took only very tentative steps towards higher enrichment in 2019, and then after we killed Qasem Soleimani, they did nothing at all for most of 2020. Is that right?
It was a higher level of deterrence after that.
Last week on the Intelligence Committee, we had our annual worldwide threats briefing, and the Director of National Intelligence cited the killing of Mohsen Fakhrizadeh, a notorious Iranian nuclear scientist, in November 2020 as the reason Iran accelerated its enrichment program. Do you agree with that assessment?
Senator, I think any talk of the Iran nuclear program would be best in a classified setting.
I pointed out there's also something that happened in November of 2020, besides the killing of Mohsen Fakhrizadeh, that might have emboldened Iran, and that was the election of Joe Biden that gave the Iranians confidence that they were no longer going to be held militarily at risk. Speaking of that time frame, in I think it was December of 2020, didn't we face threats to our personnel in Iraq from militias, and the former president tweeted what he called some friendly health advice to the Ayatollahs, that if a single American was harmed in Iraq, he would hold them responsible?
I'm not familiar with that specific tweet, Senator.
That did happen. It's okay, there were a lot of them. You don't have to be familiar with every one of them. but I also don't think those attacks happen. So I think what we can learn here, whether it's from Qasem Soleimani or the tanker wars or anything else, that the only thing that will deter Iran is the credible threat of military force. One final question. I know you've added Israel to your AOR, and you write in your statement that you readily partner today with Arab militaries and the Israel Defense Force alike. In fact, the inclusion of Israel presents many collaborative and constructive security opportunities. One of the opportunities I see is having Israeli Air Force personnel training alongside American personnel on KC-46 tankers, which we expect to be providing them into the future, and that's training that we can provide them so they'll be ready to operate those aircraft as soon as they get them. Do you think that that would be one of what you call a collaborative and constructive opportunity between the United States and Israel?
When they get closer to getting their aircraft, starting to train those pilots so they can retain that training and go right into the execution of operating them.
Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Cotton. Senator Hirono, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to turn to...
Thanks for watching, everybody. Make sure to hit that subscribe button. Turn on your notifications so every time I put out a video, you can know about it. It'll come up in your feed. Hit that like button if you liked it. And be positive. Peace.